MFA updates
Sawadika and welcome to MFA Update, a weekly program that focuses on Thailand's international affairs and activities. I am Kimmy or Kim Paniknisha Grairer, your host. Today, I bring you to His Excellency Suriya Jindawong, the Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Kingdom of Thailand to the United Nations. We will talking about sustaining sustainability for all.The
foreign affairs that matter. Special guests from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is the MFA updates.
The first question: How did relations between Thailand and the United Nations begin?
Thank you very much for the question. It is important to understand a little bit about the history.of Thailand-United Nations relations. People focus on the years after the Second World War. But to be frank, I think we should go even further and to show you how much Thailand has given importance to international organizations. Just to give you some perspective, Thailand is one of the longest serving countries in any international organization. So we are a multilateral country at heart. To give an example, you may have heard of the organization called the International Telecommunications Union, or ITU. Now, this was established in 1883, and Thailand has been a member of the ITU since 1883. Another example, the League of Nations, which is actually the forerunner.of the United Nations. We were a founding member of the League of Nations, one of 32 countries in 1990. So we have a long history of cooperation and membership in international organizations. Now coming to your question that is on the United Nations, we became a member of the United Nations in 1946. Now this was at what was called the first General Assembly session of the United Nations from at the beginning, and so we became a member in December of 1946. According to our records, Thailand at that time was called Siam, was admitted at what is called the 67th plenary meeting of the first session of the UN General Assembly on the 15th of December.The meeting started at 8:30 p.m. here in New York, but it ended at 12:45 a.m., close to 1 o'clock in the morning. So it covered both the 15th and the 16th of December. So we became a member of the UN on the 15th of December, if we refer to the New York time. But if you look from Thai to Thailand time, it's the 16th of December. In any case, that is when we joined the United Nations.And we have been a partner of the United Nations ever since, that involved in many important capacities, including, for example, we had Prince Wan Waitiakon was the president of the 11th session of the UNGA, that was in 1958, and former Prime Minister Anand Banyarachun was appointed chairman of the high-level panel on threats, challenges, and change.in the year 2003. So we have been involved in the UN for a long time and in different capacities. We are a strong supporter of the UN. This year is the 75th anniversary of Thailand-United Nations relations. Thank you.
Considering that Your Excellency has been posted to the permanent mission of Thailand to the United Nations in New York twice,once as a junior officer and now as a permanent representative. So what issues in the multilateral diplomacy do you consider as most challenging?
Thank you very much for the question. I've been posted to New York at the permanent mission of Thailand to the UN. This is my second time. And there are many challenges that I have seen on the issue of multilateral diplomacy. I think the probably the most important challenge that Thailand or any country would face, especially over the course of the last 50, 60, 70 years, is how do we explain multilateral diplomacy or multilateralism to our people and to the humanity at large, because sometimes it sounds quite complicated. Let me just, that is I think one of the biggest challenges of any country. How do we explain to the Thai people that UN diplomacy or relations and cooperation with the United Nations and with other international organizations is important for Thailand? I think that is one of the biggest challenges. How do we build trust and faith in the United Nations? And I guess to answer that question, I would just have to say that it requires a lot of effort. I think what is important to realize is that the United Nations for Thailand, since the very beginning in 1946, was very important because membership in the United Nations is a reflection of the acceptance of Thailand as a sovereign country on equal terms with any other country that is a member of the United Nations. And in fact, that is why we have been involved in international organizations since the very beginning, as I referred to in 1883 with the International Telecommunications Union, for example. So this is, I think, the most important aspect that people should realize, that being a member of the UN means that you are recognized as a sovereign country that is on equal terms with everyone else. That is why, to this very day, many countries tried to become a member of the United Nations because it's a recognition of themselves as a sovereign country. But of course, there are many other challenges to being part of the United Nations that I've seen. For example, how do we help ensure that the international community keeps pace with the various changes that are taking place in the world, whether it is in the issue of new economic developments, whether it is in the issue of new technologies. And let us not forget the primary purpose why the UN was created was to ensure that we have international peace and security. This is very important. So these are all important challenges, I think, that I have seen during the course of my assignment here in New York 20 years ago and now, today. In fact, 20 years ago, I was here at the United Nations during the event, what we call as 9/11. Remember that attack on the World Trade Center buildings here in New York, and which changed the world in a sense, and it made us realize that we are all vulnerable to these actions, and that therefore it is very important to enhance international cooperation, including partnerships with the United Nations to address these problems of threats to the security and safety of the international community and to humanity. And that is why we have continued to attach great importance to close cooperation with the United Nations. Thank you.
What Your Excellency consider as Thailand's strongest points in multilateral fora?
Thank you very much. Well, I think various countries each have different assets or advantages or strong points, as you mentioned, in multilateral fora. For Thailand, I think it is very much related to what I call the Thai DNA, right? Now, what is the Thai DNA? By our very nature, the Thai people and the Thai government and Thai diplomacy, we are very much consensus driven. We want to find consensus. We are very much bridge builders. We try to bridge the differences amongst countries. And we are by nature very moderate, the middle path, as we usually call it as well. So because of these characteristics, there is what we call a general trust or confidence in Thailand as we engage in multilateral diplomacy. When there is, in my experience, for example, in various international fora, including the United Nations. If there is a problem or an issue that requires some, solution, many times they come to Thailand to help, to see whether we can give an opinion or to provide some suggestion. Why? Because Thailand, we do not, we are very understanding. We understand the differences of views of different countries and different peoples, and we try to find a way out. We are very moderate, and we are very, in many ways, we engender some confidence on the part of our friends, right? So many times there's a resolution, for example, that needs to be negotiated, and when we are perhaps stuck on a certain paragraph, the Thai delegation sometimes comes up with a moderate solution, a way forward, a way out, right? So I think this is one of the great strengths of Thailand in our diplomacy. But let's not confuse that to mean that we do not have important principles that we adhere to, all right? We are important principles. For example, we are people-centered. We attach great importance to the meeting the interests of people. We are very much supportive of human dignity, and we are very much supportive of promoting partnerships. So for us, cooperation is usually the only way forward, and that is why I think we are very sought after in order to help find a way out. I think that is one of the strengths of Thai multilateral diplomacy. And perhaps let me just end by saying, in terms of the substance, it just happens that one of the important priorities that Thailand is pursuing nationally, regionally, and globally happens to be one of the very important priorities of the United Nations, and that is sustainability, or which includes sustainable development. This is being done, is a national process, it is a national priority. We have the bio-circular and green economy model, or BCG economy model, that is very much tries to advance sustainability nationally, and we're trying to do this regionally, also within ASEAN. And at the global, at the UN level, we have the SDGs, right? The Sustainable Development Goals, and the various plans that try to take sustainability forward. So these are the strengths, I think, of Thailand multilateral diplomacy.
In what aspects of multilateral fora would you like to see an increase in Thailand's role?
Well, thank you. There are many areas where I think we should continue to strive to do even better. And these are the key areas that have always been the strengths of Thailand's diplomacy at the United Nations. For example, promoting human security. How do we ensure that security really meets the needs of the people's different countries, all right? Another thing is how do we expand protection for the people in various areas, especially the vulnerable. These include, the elderly, for example, women, children. These are areas that we can always try to do more. And especially in this day and age, but we've always been doing this for quite a long time now. But especially in this day and age of the pandemic, is the issue of health. We are trying to promote better health for all. And this is reflected, for example, in our universal health coverage, which is a policy that is very much supported by the United Nations. These are the traditional areas I think that we will continue to try to play an important role in support of the United Nations. But there are also new areas, I think, if I can share with listeners, that we should attach importance as well. These include, for example, the environment and climate change. These are things that we'll have to do in order to protect our planet, in order to give a healthier and sustainable planet for future generations. And this is something that we're trying to do. We have already announced at the Glasgow COP meeting of our efforts, targets to be carbon neutral by 2050, and net zero greenhouse gas emissions in or before 2065, for example. Other areas which we should try to play a greater role is technological developments, because these things will help in terms of making sustainable development more efficient. And of course, let's not forget the issue of promoting trust and confidence. I think this is very important. I think this is something that Thailand can play a role, a facilitating role, or in order to promote trust and confidence, because this is the underlying basis to promote international peace and security based on better mutual understanding amongst nations and people. So there are many areas I think that we can try to play a better role. And this is all designed for the ultimate objective of securing a peaceful and prosperous global and regional environment so that the Thai people and Thailand can continue to pursue its economic growth and development sustainably and in a progressive manner. Thank you.
So what would Your Excellency like to do to make Thailand more visible in the international community?
Well, thank you for the question. There are many things I think that Thailand can do to increase its, he called it visibility, right, international community. And these involve the issues, as I mentioned, playing a proactive role on issues that are dear to Thailand's heart. And one of those issues is based on something that the United Nations is very much supportive of, and that is leaving no one behind. All right, leaving no one behind. And this is reflected in Thailand's efforts to promote sustainable development and sustainability, both nationally and regionally. And so this is the things that we can do in order to make Thailand more visible. We will have to translate these into perhaps more concrete projects and partnerships with the United Nations. And this is just not only in New York, it's in other places, even in Thailand. Let's not forget we have the SCAP, the Economics and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, which plays a very important role in the Asia Pacific, and it is based in Bangkok. Now, let's not forget that we have many other UN agencies, such as UNDP, United Nations Development Program, which plays a very important role in promoting development and growth for our region and beyond, and many other agencies, about 30, 40 agencies based in Bangkok, which, this is something we'll have to highlight. In fact, I just met the UN Secretary General Guterres to present my credentials a couple of days ago, and he emphasized to me that the strength of Thailand that he hopes that we will try to promote is the fact that we are a hub for the UN activities, the UN cooperation, not only in Southeast Asia, but also in the Asia and the Pacific. So this is something that we can certainly do to make Thailand more visible. One important person that I'd like to acknowledge, which reflects, again, the important priority of promoting Thai people to work and be engaged in international organizations, is our very own Dr. Vilawan Mangkalatnakul, who is the Director General of the Department of Treaties and Legal Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand. She has just been elected in the past few weeks as a member of the International Law Commission, or the ILC, beginning in 2023 to 2027. Now, this is a very prestigious appointment. Not so many Thais have been elected to be in the ILC. We are very proud of this, and this is yet another example, as I said, of the need to have more Thai people engaged in international organizations, because this is one of the ways in order to make Thailand more visible to the international community. So if I may seek your help in terms of promoting greater awareness of Thai people working in international organizations, and to ask all Thai people who are interested to play a role in international organizations to please let us know so that we can support you. This is one way to advance your career. At the same time, it will advance Thailand's visibility in the international community.
What are the lessons learned from 75 years of Thailand's membership in the UN?
Well, there are always lessons to be learned in the 75 years of Thailand's membership in the UN or of any country's membership in the United Nations. I believe that sincerely because I think through learning and studying from past lessons is the way to try to make things better so that we can better serve the interests of Thailand and the Thai people in cooperation with the United Nations. I think one of the important lessons that we've learned is that we should never take things for granted. The United Nations has always been there, but it continues to deserve our continued support. So we cannot expect suddenly the international community will support the United Nations automatically. We'll have to work on it. And we will have to build such support in terms of a coalition that involves not only countries from different various regions around the world, but it should also involve stakeholders. And this involves everyone from civil society organizations to academics to the private sector and equally important, ordinary citizens and the youth. This coalition of the compassionate, those who are willing to support the important goals and objectives and vision of the United Nations, these should come together and work in order to support the United Nations. I think that's one of the lessons we've learned, that this partnership involving different sectors of society, involving different countries is invaluable and essential to ensure that the progress in the UN's work will continue. I think that is one of the important lessons we've learned. Another lesson I think that we've learned is that we will also need to realize that no single country, whether it is a small country or a large country, can do it alone. All right? So it is important, therefore, to always try to find a cooperative spirit in order to work out solutions that are feasible and that are sustainable. Now, that's very important. Feasible and sustainable. Why feasible? Because it has to have the agreement of most, if not all, countries in order for it to become a good solution for the UN. And sustainable, why? Because it's not helpful if the solution only works for a couple of years. We must have a solution that works, for the long term. And that's why, for example, in one of the important goals that we are doing, which is to meet the Sustainable Development Goals, we will have to use these two principles in mind: feasibility, right, and sustainability, right? So so that we can have long-term solutions. I think that's one of the another lessons that we learned. And lastly, I think the important lesson we learned is that the UN is a valued partner of Thailand, and vice versa. Right? This is something that many people will not realize, but many things that the United Nations does is helpful for Thailand, whether it's supporting the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it is supporting sustainable agriculture, whether the important role the United Nations has played in resolving problems related to international peace and security in other regions, and also in Southeast Asia, whether it is in terms of trying to develop the legal standards and norms that will help promote the peaceful settlement of disputes, whether it is in terms of trying to find new norms that will help guide development of business interactions as new technologies and new ideas come forward. I think these are important lessons that we learned from our 75 years association and membership in the United Nations. No country is an island. No man is an island. No woman is an island. We are all ultimately connected to each other. And I think I'm reminded by an important quote that the late Dr. Suwan, former Foreign Minister of Thailand and also the Secretary General of ASEAN, one of the quotes he likes to use is the quote by John Donne, which says that no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. So never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Basically, it reflects that we are all connected and that we should be compassionate to one another. And that is just one of the quotes I think I just like to highlight as we have this conversation on the role of the United Nations and its relationship with Thailand.
So what is your Excellency's model of work?
Well, there are several models of work. That is one of the quotes that I really like, which relates to the United Nations. But if there's a model of work, I think I can think of two, and perhaps you can pick one. Which one is the better one? One that relates to my own thinking in terms of work, and that is it's a very simple quote, and it says, "And this too shall pass," which means this will change. All right, and it's very important because it can be very chastening in one's hour of triumph, and at the same time very consoling when one is feeling down. In other words, things will change, so we have to be able to adjust to change and make the best use of it. It's good to remind us when we are successful that we cannot always think that we will always be successful, but we have to be prepared for changes in the future. At the same time, when we are meeting with problems and challenges, we can be consoled by the fact that things can also change for the better. So this is one of the quotes that I really like, one of my mottos in terms of working. The other one is in terms of teamwork, and this is the one that I like in terms of our management as working as a team. In my view, there are 4 Ds in teamwork, and that is 4 types of people. 4 Ds. You need, in order for anything to be successful in the teamwork, whether it's in UN diplomacy or in other aspects of work, you need to have first D, a dreamer, someone who can think of the vision, think outside the box, reach for the stars, all right, and figure out what we want to do. You also need the second D, which is the debater. The debater is someone who helps to identify what the problems are, you know, and therefore brings the dreamer back to earth, you know, and helps to create what we call pragmatic solutions. But ultimately, you also need the third D, which is the decider. You will have to decide which course of action to take after you listen to all the information and all the views. And ultimately, you need the fourth D, which is probably also the most important, which is the doer. After you decide, someone has to do it, or you have to do it together as a team. So that is my motto of work. The 4 Ds, you need both the dreamer, debater, decider, and doer in order to get some work done. I hope that helps in terms of the motto in my style of work.
And finally, what are memorable moments in your Excellency's diplomatic careers, and please leave your message to our audience.
Oh, thank you. Well, there are. I've been very proud to have served in the Foreign Service for a couple of decades. Perhaps some moments that I find memorable for me, in the sense that it has given me a much personal satisfaction that I have contributed something to Thailand's diplomacy at a very small level. All right. For example, in 1996, when I just joined the Foreign Service, I was suddenly asked to help develop and promote what is called the first Asia-Europe meeting, or ASEM. It has never been done before, and we finally hosted the first summit in Thailand in 1996. I was very proud to have been a part of that in bridging the understanding between Asia and Europe, and so that I felt was a very satisfying moment for me. Another moment perhaps is in 2004. It was unfortunately based on a very tragic event, which is you remember the tsunami of 2004, and we all mobilized within Thailand and the region in order to help address this challenge because of its effect on so many people, both in Thailand and in the region, and many other regions around the world. So what I felt was a very satisfying outcome was I was asked to develop a concept on how do we enhance cooperation in the face of future disasters within ASEAN. Right? So how can ASEAN be better prepared to deal with such natural disasters? And one of the things I did was to lay the groundwork for what eventually became what is called the SASO, which is the standby arrangements and standard operating procedures in the face of natural disasters. So since 2004, I think ASEAN has been very much more effective in dealing with natural disasters in the region, and I played a small role in that. Perhaps the last thing one thing I'd just like to highlight is in 2008, 2009, when Thailand was the chairman of ASEAN one cycle ago, and I was asked to help develop an idea which would be helpful for Thailand and ASEAN, and that was the idea of connectivity. All right, connectivity. How do we connect ourselves better within ASEAN and with the broader Asia-Pacific region and the world? And that became the basis of ASEAN's connectivity vision and strategy, which continues to this very day. And especially becomes very important now, as you may know, because of the pandemic. We need to continue to maintain what we call effective and safe supply chains connectivity. We must be able to move medical goods around, and in fact, trading goods and other products should not be affected by the pandemic. So these are, and of course, transportation, the various transportation corridors around Southeast Asia and the Asia Pacific. So these are some of the things I feel that I felt, which I remember to be, small contributions to our diplomacy. But if you ask me to a final word, perhaps a message to our audience is remember that as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of Thailand-United Nations relations, we should always remember that the United Nations has always been a strong partner of Thailand and vice versa, and that we should always remember that nothing is taken for granted. We must continue to work to build these relations in order so that the United Nations can give back, whether it is through the various agencies of the UN located in Thailand, including SCAP, UNDP, and so many others, or whether in venues in other countries like here in New York or in Geneva or in Vienna or Nairobi, the multilateral system needs our support. And therefore, I hope Thai people will recognize the importance that the United Nations plays a role for Thailand and for the region and for humanity as a whole. I end where I began, which is in December of 1946. We joined the United Nations after much diplomacy, after much lobbying, in order to ensure that Thailand is recognized as a sovereign country that is on equal terms with other countries in the United Nations. And in order to continue the long tradition of Thailand, or in the past Siam's, engagement with international organizations, even as early as 1883. So we are a long-time partner of international organizations. We will be a continuing partner with the United Nations, and I hope the Thai people will take great pride in the fact that our country has been with international organizations for over a century, and that will continue to support our cooperation with the United Nations. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, His Excellency Surya Jindawong, the Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Kingdom of Thailand to the United Nations in New York. Don't forget to follow the YouTube channel MFA Thailand and Facebook page FM88 Radio Thailand English for more updates. I have to leave now, so see you again on the MFA Updates next episode. สวัสดีค่ะ
MFA Updates